Teachers of Reddit. What is the most NSW thing you've seen while being a teacher? Posted this on a similar one once, but applies here. Currently a teacher at a secondary school UK where a student with additional needs likes to have a wank at the back of his classes. He's done it once in mine. I'm male, and at least twice in a female colleague's, so he's not picky or anything, just likes to tickle his pickle when he can. Had to bring parents in. Apparently it's all the rage at home too. Even dinner isn't off limits, as mum's caught him with pasta in one hand and his dong in the other before. It's the little things that make this the noble profession. Start feeding him Frosted Flakes. That should stop him from masturbating. Former college faculty here. The worst one I have experienced was being in the bathroom while some guy was having phone sex while he was taking a crap. To this day I am amazed that I was able to not laugh. You should have started replying. Not a teacher, but in grade 11 math there's this dude who, once a week, would stick his hand down his pants and jerk off. He didn't sit in the back of the class and wasn't super discreet about it, but the teacher never saw him and nobody else said anything about it. He's a doctor now. Doctor, feel good. Not a teacher, but in 10th grade, my history class was covering World War II and the Holocaust, so the teacher had us watch Schindler's List in class. For those who haven't seen the movie, there is a scene where the Nazi camp guards line up the prisoners completely naked. Children, men, and women of all age groups were lined up and nothing was censored. Truly a horrific scene in a sad, but fantastic movie. Out of the corner of my eye, I see one of my classmates jerking off under the desk, dong in hand, while looking at the screen very intensely. The teacher walked over and sat on the back tables next to his desk and he stopped. After the bell rung, the teacher asked my classmates to stay and talk to her. I can only imagine the conversation they had or how the teacher mentally prepped herself for that kind of talk. Obviously, being in 10th grade, we gave the guy crap about it the entire rest of the year. Schindler's List. Not a teacher, but I think this story is worth sharing. It's not really that NSW, but some 12-year-old girl wrote her crush's name with her period blood on a toilet door and it became a tourist destination for a day. Edit. To make it even more gross, this toilet door was situated right in front of the main staircase, so everyone had to walk past it when they were going to recess, and most of the kids just spent the entire recess trying to figure out who did it. Yeah, you're right, that's not NSW, it's NSFL. Using an office chair to aim his anus, true battleshit style. Thankfully the chamber was empty, but the puckering and pulsing as he tried will scar me forever. Had a 4-year-old tell me the myriad of ways he'd like to kill me. Shoot me with gun till I'm dead, put me in fire until I'm dead, etc. Then he tried to push a shelf over on a sleeping child. Fun times. IDK, this seems like something where a professional comes in. A few years back, a teacher at my school had sexy pics taken for her husband and wanted to email them to him. She scanned them on a printer at work and uploaded them to a shared public directory, thinking she was uploading them to a private folder, which I still don't know why she thought this was a good idea. Needless to say, it didn't take long for someone to find her pics on the shared directory. Kids would airdrop naked pics to whoever had theirs turned on. After teachers getting a bunch of pictures, we had a huge school investigation. I taught 7th and 8th grade. My school has one iPads, so occasionally everyone will just start airdropping memes to each other. I made the mistake of leaving my phone on the setting where anyone could send me stuff, and all of my band kids were sending me memes. Nothing fricked up, thankfully. I was a student in high school, and in my junior year we had a substitute crap himself. I felt bad for the guy, but it brought much joy to my heart because the chair he crap himself in belonged to my old history teacher, who we later found out was a pedophile. What the frick? School camp for 14-15-year-olds. Walking on a girl giving a guy a handy with about 4 other guys just sitting around watching. School camp for 14-15-year-olds. Walking on a girl giving a guy a handy with about 4 other guys just sitting around watching, waiting for their turn. I worked IT at a school. Had a laptop come in that suddenly stopped working for no reason. In a surprise to no one, the inside was filled with sticky brown soda residue. Got the motherboard replaced at a shop. Powered it on. Ironed horse pee. with a lot of search history to go along with it. I considered my job done and just handed it to the principal and was on my way. School policy is if you vomit you have to go home. Girl had detention after school and I had her last period. She vomited all over her book deliberately so she wouldn't have to go to detention. It did not work. I hope she did it again afterwards, just to give them heck for not following protocol. Used to be a teacher for a year, but this story is relatively tame compared to some of the things I'm reading here. One day I was giving a test, walking in between the students, some girls sitting in the last row. Everyone was bent over to fill in the test, but every time I walked behind the last row, it appeared as if that girl had pulled her pants lower and lower, up until the point she was nearly sitting on the chair with her bare cheeks. Of course I had to tell her it was inappropriate, at which point she had to button up her pants again in order for them to stay up. Very strange thing to comment on, I can tell you that. I teach group music lessons. One group consists of 5 9-year-old girls who are learning the flute. While one of them was in the bathroom, another grabbed her flute, held it to her posterior and farted on it. She placed it back on the table and muttered, "That's what she gets for wearing a hat indoors." This is freaking incredible. I teach middle school literature and theater. First year of teaching. After a rehearsal when I thought all my students had been picked up, went back to the stage to collect a few things. Walked in on 2 8th graders getting super touchy-feely. Guy had gotten her shirt off and was working on removing her bra. Not sure who was more embarrassed, me or the kids. Turned my back, told them to get dressed and get to the front doors. Immediately called both families. Both were pretty cool with it, all things considered. Worst part was, about 3 minutes into the conversation with the girl's father, he realized I'd seen her without a shirt on. Don't think I made eye contact with either one of them for the rest of the year. Edit. Lots of discussion on whether I was right to contact the parents. I feel like that's fair. In the moment it was a total sour choice. If I contact them immediately and say this is what happened and what I saw and what I did, then that's the story. If I do nothing, and it comes out later, it's really easy for either of the kids to say, well, he was standing there watching with a big grin on his face. Teaching is a profession where even the appearance of impropriety is a fireable offense. Teachers have lost their jobs for less. Worst part was, about 3 minutes into the conversation with the girl's father, he realized I'd seen her without a shirt on. I mean, yeah, but you prevented it from going further. If anything, I'd hope to think he was grateful to you. Preschool teacher here, and this is about to get weird. One thing kids have in common is they reach an age where the mysteries of their bodies become incredibly fascinating. One aspect of this is when little boys realize they get erections. Yes, if you're not a parent or a teacher, little boys get erections. Even infants do. One time when I was teaching 4-5-year-olds, one little boy was taking way too long in the bathroom. The door went 3/4 of the way to the ceiling so teachers could monitor, and when I peeked into the bathroom I found one of our little boys exploring himself. By this I mean he was using his little boner to push the bathroom stall door open, letting it swing back, then pushing it open again. Kids are freaking weird. Whoa, I can open the door with my pee-pee. I was a science teacher in a boys' boarding school. The school was located in a very cold region and so some kids would skip showers. Once I was on duty and I had to go inspect the boys' dorms. I noticed a really awful smell coming off one kid. I reported him to his housemaster so he can get him to shower. Long story short, at some point it came to light that the kid had developed gangrene around his private parts and in his feet. It fell on me as the teacher on duty to take him to the hospital. On further inspection the kid was found to also have bed bugs, so I had to be scrubbed down too and shave my hair bald for being close to him, and the health inspection office also got involved with the school and the school basically closed for 4 weeks. PS, the school had hot water showers for students but not in the teachers' quarters, so all the teachers showered with cold water. This kid really had no excuse. I had a substitute once who told us about his experience at a not so well funded school. He was walking down the hall when he saw a liner for the boys' bathroom, which is an immediate red flag cause IDK about you guys, but I've never seen a line for a boys' bathroom. Turns out a girl was giving BJs in the stall for the low price of $1 a piece. Dang, that's a bargain. As a camp counselor, I had to separate two boys about 8 years old having a sword fight in the bathroom. Needless to say, I was the one who needed to talk to someone after that. I see nothing wrong with an honorable duel such as that. Edit. Whoever gave me that silver, I challenge you to a duel. Back when was an intern, I used to spend a lot of time with the school's IT guy. One of the duties was updating the browser filter so students couldn't use the internet freely. This was before laptops were common in schools. The list of blocked websites included some very weird and freaky sites. Not a teacher, but multiple times this emo girl was caught jacking off her boyfriend. Whether it be in the lunchroom, the classroom, the bathroom, etc. She always was jacking him off. I walked in on them doing this, but they didn't notice me. I left the room as soon as I saw them. Last I heard, the girl got expelled and the guy got off scot-free. She was probably mashing it. Not a teacher, but my mother was, and she has lots of great stories, but one in particular comes to mind. Some elementary school classrooms have very large metal ceiling fans. I haven't been to an elementary school in some time, but I know growing up I remembered them. Not sure if they are still in use now. Anyway, the ones I had in class growing up always had a large metal cage surrounding the fans so that no one would get hit by it. They are very powerful and made out of metal. One day, my mom was sitting in the classroom late after school grading papers at her desk. She talked about how she was always friendly with the janitor that would come in and clean the classroom at the end of the day and enjoyed chatting with him while he did his job. She's sitting there grading papers and all of a sudden, bang, she looks up and he's been flung across the room and landed a bloody mess in a pile of desks. He had been dusting the overhead lights on a stepladder when the metal ceiling fan caught him in the head. Split his forehead open, blood everywhere. My mom uses the rags from the blackboard to apply pressure and stop the bleeding the best she could. Called 911. Paramedics show up. Apparently there was so much blood at this point that she joked about one of the paramedics being lightheaded and having to sit for a moment outside. In the end the janitor was alright. My mom was on some old TV show called Rescue 911 or something like that for applying pressure and reducing the guy's blood loss. This, and I'm sure other incidents, are the reason these metal ceiling fans now have the cage enclosure I remember from my elementary classrooms. Definitely not safe for work. This is the coolest story. Once I arrived to a classroom just as a 14-year-old girl announced to all of her classmates that period blood smelled like rotten fish. I just said it really had nothing to do with French and started my class as usual. I later told her that if it really did smell like fish, she should share that with her doctor. She's probably confusing the smell of a pad that's been on too long with the blood itself. IT admin at a local school district. You would be surprised what I have seen on kids' search histories. Mostly memes of the day, but sometimes it's pretty fricked up. Summer camp counselor back in late 90s. A 13-year-old girl gave a 13-year-old boy a BJ in the woods. The boy stupidly bragged about it to the other kids. Another counselor overheard it and reported it to the camp owner director. He had both kids brought to the office and they each had to call their parents and tell them why they were getting kicked out of camp. This happened a few months ago. We were playing a game. We were writing on the board and unbeknownst to me the floor was waxed earlier in the day. But as I got the kids to go to the board, this one girl slipped and fell face first into the table that was in front of the board. Busted out a few teeth. Blood on the floor. All over the table. I honestly thought she died right there. Luckily, she didn't. Her parents were chill about what happened, and school paid for any medical problem. I felt like crap after that. Like she was in my care and I failed her. I still get nightmares about that day. Back when I was a long-term substitute, I walked into the backstage area of the theater and interrupted two students having sex on couch we used for the show the previous week. Turned around and walked out saying you have 2 minutes to get dressed and get on stage. I didn't report them to admin, but I gave them a talk about appropriate time and place. I then had the couch moved into storage. Same. We had an upstairs lounge over the stage. Pretty nice one too. After school, a lot of students had sex up there. Not a teacher, but I once saw a female student giving head to a boy on a football field, which he then vomited all over. I saw a 15-year-old girl take the virginity of 3 guys simultaneously. All were suspended. 2 of the guys criminally charged because they were 18. The other one was thrown from the school. The girl, as far as I understood, was thrown from the next school she went to as well and ended up in the psych ward. Her uncle, who was her legal guardian, was arrested 3 months afterwards. This is an incredibly sad story. I bet her childhood wasn't the greatest. I caught one of my female students having sex with her 21-year-old boyfriend in the upper floor. I was going to make a personal call and I wanted better reception, so I went up the stairs thinking I would make the call by the window up there. As I made my way up, I immediately froze as I saw her boyfriend getting off her, missionary style. She yells "Oh my god" and immediately tries to get up. I quickly turn around to look at the wall. At this point I saw everything. Both of them I nervously yelled at the wall, "What are you doing? Please get dressed this instant." I run down the stairs to ask my co-worker to call security. I didn't recognize the bearded young man and just wait for them to take over. They were both taken to the principal's office. I'm not sure what happened to them though. A little later the principal interviews me for questions with the police and neither of them seemed surprised. TBH. Just another issue in their day I guess. I still see her in the hallways. We avoid eye contact. So awkward. I feel sad for her, though. I think she's one of those girls with a reputation. Getting railed in the halls tends to earn a bit of a reputation. Not me, but a client told me a story one time. She was a middle school teacher and they were away on a field trip. Doing checks at night she heard noise in one of the rooms and when she walked in it was a full-blown sex party with 12-year-olds. Over 6 kids. Breaking it up was one thing, but the fallout was insane. She said all the parents were suing each other, getting police involved, etc. She also basically had to testify to being witness to underage sex. Only one kid returned to the school afterwards. What the frick? My 2 students, 3 years old, both needed to go to the toilet but both decided to pull their pants down before they got to the toilet door. One kid later didn't pull up his pants properly so his pee-pee was overhanging his trousers and was trying to show me locate a bruise on his leg. The other kid decided to pull his pants up outside of the toilet. This was the day I unintentionally saw 2 little boys pee-pee. Former teacher had a 3-year-old scream at me during nap time that I was a freaking bee. I mean, I am, but no need to be so blunt about it. I had been fired from a great job. I was doing anything I could to make ends meet for my family, including substitute teaching. It's 1996. For my first job, I get the phone call and it says I can teach ISS for a whole week. All the other jobs were just for a day, but a week? I'm in. I didn't know what ISS was. ISS is in school suspension. I go to Carver Middle School in Orlando, FL, and it's a scary place for a 5'4" white boy. Most of the boys were bigger than me, and I'm like Daniel in the lion's den in this ISS class. Fortunately, I get a phone in the room where I can call the on-campus policeman. Not just a guard, but a fully outfitted policeman. On Monday, everything goes okay. Teachers send work to me. The boys, no girls in this class. Don't do it. I make sure everyone stays seated and reasonably quiet. All is well. On Tuesday this big Hispanic kid brings in a bag with him to class and sits it next to him. I don't react immediately. Really, I don't even notice at first. I'm not good at this. But it dawns on me around 10 AM that he's guarding the bag and being weird about it. Weird enough for me to notice. I ask him to come up to my desk and we chat about it. I ask him to bring me the bag and open it for me, just to peek inside. Nope. I ask him if I could open it then and peek inside. Nope. I'm nervous. I have created a situation and I don't know a way to de-escalate from here. So I threaten him with calling the officer in. Don't do that, he says, but also won't let me see inside the bag. I ask him to take a seat and tell him not to worry. The officer will be here and take a peek and it's no big deal. Just for the safety of everyone. Unless it's drugs or a gun you won't get in trouble, I say, trying to see if he would respond. Nothing. Ice cold color. The officer arrives and he doesn't do anything special. Just grabs the bag and opens it and starts rummaging around inside it. Nothing unusual but a box that holds cards, with a naked girl on the outside. He opens the card box and finds a Playboy TM deck of cards with girls in various poses on them. The officer asks him if that's it and he says yes. The kid gets his cards confiscated and gets booted from ISS to full suspension. I felt bad about it and told him so. We could have just handled this like men and I take your cards and you stay here. You just had to be honest with me. I'm sorry you are getting suspended. That's the most NSW thing I've seen as a teacher. Except the 4-H class I did on artificial insemination. It's NSW to stick your arm up inside a cow and get a vet's eye view of the whole process. Well, I was a student but I walked in on 2 teachers having sex in the staff toilet. I had left class because I was feeling sick and that was the closest restroom to my classroom. I walked back out and vomited in the hallway afterwards. It was all very bizarre. They helped me to clean up though. I went home and we never mentioned anything. It was still awkward between them and myself after that obviously. They were making babies and I saw one of the babies and the baby looked at me. NAT, but a teacher was meeting with 6 high school students with Down syndrome and had to leave the room for a few minutes. Apparently it is not uncommon that these students will have strong sexual urges with no filters or inhibitions about them. When he returned, it was a full-on orgy. I walked in on something like this in 8th grade. My gym class had 3 mentally handicapped boys in it. One day I had to go back to the locker room in the middle of class for some reason and caught them in the showers all going to town on each other. I walked out immediately and never mentioned it to anyone until right now. I worked in a secondary school and the chemistry department complained that amine was blocked. Took me a while to realize that someone had spelled anime incorrectly in the block filter. I corrected the error and almost immediately had complaints from the kids that they could no longer watch anime. Can't win in schools. Dang. Used a sealing jutsu on their asses. You get used to nudity bodily fluids with younger kids. Peed their panties or are having trouble changing into their swimsuit. You put on a straight face and you do what you have to do. Not me but a teacher in our high school reported a girl for wearing a see-through shirt with no bra. From what I heard, the shirt wasn't super see-through. It was just enough that you could definitely tell if you were looking in that general area. So then there was a bunch of controversy over whether or not it was right to report her since the teacher would have had to been looking in that area in the first place. Not a teacher but a staff member at a cadet camp. I was 17 at the time and I had to stay in a 20-man room with all the other cadets whilst we were on camp. Everything's going fine and I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and I actually catch 3 cadets playing Soggy Biscuit in the middle of a full 20-man room at like 3 in the morning. Later that day I had to not only call their parents, the cadets were all underage 15-17, but also explain to them why their sons were not only being removed from the camp but kicked out of the cadets. By far the most awkward experience of my life so far. Till what Soggy Biscuit means. I'm the yearbook advisor. For the senior pictures, students email us JPGs of the photos they'd like to use. Last year, a student sent me her tasteful nudes rather than her senior pictures. Accidentally I think. That went straight to both the principal and the police, not to incriminate her, but as a side move. I ended up getting the intended photos later. Thankfully, didn't have her in a class again. Tasteful nudes, critically important detail included. Thank you. While I was still a student teacher, I caught 2 senior female students from my trial class getting very intimate in the hallway. I caught them red-handed, but I didn't report them because I was a student teacher only and their relationship was none of my business. I just told them to keep their intimacy to themselves and they happily obliged. 5 years later, 2016, I heard they got married and moved to Colorado. It's really sweet that you kept track on them. I used to coach a college team. Definitely saw the squad room in Reddit NSW pics once. That was awkward. Also a former very Christian student did gay for pay at a popular gay website after graduating. Not a teacher but when I was in high school we had a kid with Down syndrome in my class. One day he just take his dong out and starts to loudly masturbate in the middle of the biology class. Wasn't there to see it, but know how it turned out. Co-worker was putting up a bulletin board and fell, hurting her back. Went to the doctor because of it and was diagnosed with cancer. She had to take a year off for treatment and did early retirement soon after. But she may have been diagnosed too late or never at all if she hadn't hurt herself at work. It wasn't safe for work but it was safe for life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.